The Falcons were this close to pulling off a shocking move that could have changed their entire defense. A Pro Bowl star, with deep ties to their coaching staff, was nearly heading to Atlanta. But something stopped it. What really happened behind the scenes, and what does it mean for the Falcons going forward? Buckle up. This story is wild. Something big almost happened in Atlanta, and barely anyone's talking about it. In the middle of June, the Falcons were this close to landing a major name. We're talking about a Pro Bowl cornerback, a game changer, a player who once had one of the richest contracts at his position in NFL history. Yes, Jaire Alexander was nearly an Atlanta Falcon. Alexander, who made his name with the Green Bay Packers, now wears purple for the Baltimore Ravens. But just before that, his career was at a strange crossroads. According to Jeremy Fowler from ESPN, the Falcons were one of the teams seriously in the mix to sign him after things fell apart in Green Bay. Let's break this down. Jaire Alexander was once the face of the Packers secondary. He was a first-round pick out of Louisville and quickly became one of the top lockdown corners in the game. His speed, instincts, and swagger made him a nightmare for receivers. But recently, things haven't gone as planned. Injuries started to pile up. His relationship with the Packers began to sour. Despite getting paid big, his impact started to shrink. And instead of trading him, Green Bay had to let him go. They just didn't see a way forward, and his expensive contract made it harder to find a trade partner. That's where Atlanta comes in. According to Fowler, Jaire had real interest in the Falcons. Why? Because of one name, Jerry Gray. He's the Falcons' defensive backs coach, and someone Jaire deeply respects. The two work together in Green Bay, and the bond between them runs deep. When Gray left the Packers to join the Falcons, Jaire reportedly said, "Man, I was sad. I almost shed a tear." That says everything. This wasn't just business, it was personal. Jaire wanted to reconnect. He wanted a fresh start, and Atlanta felt like the perfect place to reset his career with someone who believed in him from day one. And honestly, it makes sense from the Falcons' side, too. They're building something new under Raheem Morris. The energy is different now. This team isn't trying to just compete, they're trying to make a statement. Adding a high-upside veteran Pro Bowl corner would have sent shockwaves through the league. Now, why didn't the deal happen? That part isn't totally clear. Maybe the money didn't line up, maybe the Falcons had doubts about his injuries, or maybe Jaire just got a better offer from Baltimore. But one thing is for sure, Atlanta was in on it. And that tells us something very important. This front office isn't afraid to swing big. They're watching, they're ready, and they're not settling. What do you think? Should the Falcons have gone all in on Jaire Alexander? Or was passing on him the right move? Drop your thoughts in the comments and rate your confidence in the Falcons' defense this season on a scale from 1 to 10. Let's see where the fans really stand. Jaire Alexander's story isn't just about talent. It's about missed chances, big personality, and a career that's been slipping through his fingers. In 2022, he reminded the world of what he could be. He started 16 of 17 games, pulled in 5 interceptions, and looked like a true shutdown corner again. But since then, it's been a different story. In 2023 and 2024 combined, Jaire hasn't even played a full season. Just 7 games in 2023. Only 14 total games in 2 years. That's not just about injuries, it's also about discipline. There was one moment that really stood out, and not in a good way. The Packers were heading to Carolina, and for Jaire, it was a homecoming. He's from Charlotte, went to college at Louisville, and wanted that game to mean something special. So without the team's permission, he decided, "I'm the captain today." He walked out for the coin toss like he owned the place. But the Packers? They don't play like that. They're strict, they're organized, and they didn't like one of their players making that kind of move without permission, so they suspended him for the next game. That decision said a lot, not just about Jaire, but about the team's culture. The Packers weren't going to let any player, no matter how talented, step out of line. And honestly, that kind of drama can shake a locker room fast. Now let's talk production. Over the last 2 seasons, just 2 interceptions total. That's a massive drop-off for a player who had 12 in his career. The talent is still there. The ceiling is sky high. But the consistency, the focus, That's what's missing right now. So the big question becomes, would Jaire even fit in Atlanta? Let's look at the current group of Falcons corners. If they had to take the field tomorrow, you'd probably see A.J. Terrell, Mike Hughes, and D. Alford. Terrell is clearly the top guy. He's a stud. Morris loves him. Hughes, the team just re-signed him for 3 years. So that shows trust. But Alford feels like the weak link. That nickel spot is where things get shaky. That's why Jaire could have made so much sense. Now, let's be clear. Raheem Morris and GM Terry Fontenot aren't just hunting for any corner. They're not desperate. They want a guy who is way better than what they already have. They want a player who instantly makes the defense better, not just someone to fill space. And Jaire? He could have been that guy. Here's likely what the plan would have been. Bring in Jaire for the outside, where he's played his whole career. Then slide Mike Hughes into the nickel spot, where he's more versatile anyway. That makes sense. You don't sign a player like Jaire, an outside lockdown guy, just to move him into a new position. That's not smart football, and honestly, Atlanta's options at nickel aren't that strong. Let's be real. They let Alford test free agency, and nobody came calling. The Falcons didn't rush to bring him back either. They only did it when the cornerback market dried up, and the draft didn't offer much help. They had just 5 draft picks, most of which were likely aimed at building the pass rush, not the secondary. So what were they left with? A hole at nickel, a flexible but not elite option in Hughes, and a dream, maybe, is of signing a corner with top-tier upside like Alexander. Let's hear from you. Would Jaire Alexander have been worth the risk for Atlanta, or do his red flags outweigh his talent? Drop your take in the comments and tell us, how would you fix the Falcons secondary?
Look, the Falcons aren't trying to just fill spots on defense. They want real answers. They want players who know the system, fit the budget, and can actually play at a high level. But that doesn't mean they're fully happy with what they've got, especially at the nickel corner spot. Let's talk about that. Right now, D. Alford is in the mix at nickel. But let's be honest, it doesn't feel like the coaching staff is completely sold on him as the starter. That's probably why they brought him back with such little urgency. They didn't chase him in free agency. They waited, and when no one else stepped in to sign him, then they brought him back. That says a lot. Then there's Clark Phillips, a 4th-round pick out of Utah. He's had a few chances, got some playing time, showed some promise, but still, not enough. Not enough to say, yeah, that's our guy, lock him in as the starter. He's flash talent, sure, but confidence? Not quite there yet. The Falcons clearly feel comfortable with A.J. Terrell. They don't even feel the need to bring in competition at that spot. Same goes for Mike Hughes, to a lesser degree, but that inside corner spot, that nickel role, is still very much up for grabs. That's why they brought back Alford. That's why Phillips is still in the fight, and that's why after the draft, the Falcons made a very interesting move. They signed Kobe Bryant, the cornerback from Kansas. Yeah, the name might sound funny at first, but this guy is serious. A Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, full of experience and loaded with college accolades. The plan is clear now. They're creating competition. Real, tough, prove-you-deserve-it competition for that nickel spot. And this is where the what-if part hits hard. If the Falcons had landed Jaire Alexander, it could have changed everything. Jaire on the outside, Hughes kicked inside. And suddenly you've got a starting trio of corners that could hold its own against any offense in the league. That would have been the best cornerback combo the Falcons could possibly field right now. No question. But it didn't happen. Instead, Jaire signed with the Baltimore Ravens, reuniting with his old college teammate Lamar Jackson from Louisville. And while that's a fun little headline, let's be real. Lamar isn't sitting in the locker room going, "Yes, my college cornerback is back, now we're unstoppable." It's a cool story, but it's not the reason Jaire made that move. So here we are. The Falcons swung big. They missed. Now the big question is, are they still looking? Was Jaire Alexander their one shot? Their one big swing at upgrading the secondary? Or is another move still coming? What do you think, Falcons fans? Is this secondary good enough as it stands? Or should the team still be aggressive and find another proven corner? Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell us, if you were GM, what move would you make next?